A Sketch in Vedic India, Chapter 5, Eligibility. After returning to the guest house, Albert briefed Kalyan Dev in the afternoon about what had happened. You are very fortunate. Many people have come here over the years but could not secure an interview with Swami. The fact that you got an audience with Swami and were able to spend so much time is really special, said Kalyan Dev. Could you tell me why I was able to get an interview with Swami while so many others couldn't? Asked Albert. That's quite simple. The others were seeking the interview to achieve their selfish ends, while you sought it in search of truth, replied Kalyan Dev. Have you understood what he said? Asked Kalyan Dev again. One thing was very clear to me. The seeker must be eligible to recognize the truth. I was never aware of the fact that there are levels in the object that one wants to know and also in the subject or seeker who wants to know. He has not only revealed those levels but also conveyed their importance concerning the knowledge I am seeking. I realized a great truth in this context, said Albert. What is that? Kalyan Dev was curious. Although many people in need can benefit from devotees' donations, I think the people donating benefit even more. They are enhancing their ability to know the truth through their donations. You have understood it correctly, remarked Kalyan Dev appreciatively. The next day, Vimala and Albert were waiting in the interview room when Swami returned from the assembly hall. There were more than 10 people in the room, among whom Vimala noticed were a central minister and a business tycoon. Ashram receives large donations from people like these, whispered Vimala in Albert's ear. After all the others have left, Swami called these two. We have understood that knowing things could be at two levels. One level is where you obtain relative knowledge. Whatever you know, either in this world or in other worlds, as described by religion, can be said to be relative knowledge. Different religions convey this differently, and that is dependent on that belief system. No special knowledge is required to understand them, and anyone could follow it easily. But to know the absolute truth or the essence behind these relative things, one must have special eligibility. Since you are seeking the knowledge that belongs to the second category, you must have eligibility, explained Swami. Yes, Swami. You said that helping others selflessly is one of those qualities that makes one eligible for the higher truth, said Albert, remembering the earlier discussion. Not only that, as part of the process that makes you eligible, you also have to keenly observe the transactional world. You have to comprehend the nature of the worldly transactions and understand them deeply, which in turn would help in your search for the truth. So, I need not start with social service to get that eligibility, asked Albert. This is not like beginning education with the first standard and proceeding further. Without any reference to specific belief systems, you must have observed these in the world. Child prodigies display extraordinary talent in certain fields at a very young age. It may take many years of learning for normal people to achieve that level of expertise. From this, we have to conclude that the prodigies must have been born with special talents. Does it mean that they have acquired these talents in their previous life? Asked Albert, although his Christian father never talked about reincarnations. This does not mean that I intend for you to believe in reincarnation. Irrespective of any belief system, we can observe this phenomenon in the world around us and accept the fact that the differences among people do exist. Can't we? Asked Swami. Yes, these differences can be observed by anybody, agreed Albert. Thus, all those who would like to know the absolute truth need not be at the same stage of understanding, and all need not start at the very beginning. Even at a very young age, one may be ready to receive this knowledge. This precise time of readiness varies from person to person, explained Swami. Swami looked at Vimala and said, Hope you have followed what was discussed yesterday and today. He has raised similar questions to the ones you had raised a brief while ago. Why don't you share our conversation with him? Vimala said, out of 84 lakh species, very few take human birth. Out of those, very few are born as Purusha, man or male. Out of those Purushas, very few would think of attaining liberation, and out of that, one in billions would make it to the stage of liberation. I have a question, said Albert. I know what it is. Your question, why man or Purusha only should be considered over women. In spiritual parlance, man or Purusha is used to indicate completeness in human personality. In that sense, the term includes both men and women. After all, there are several men and women with animal instincts which prompt them towards inhuman behaviors, explained Swami. I asked Vimala to share that information so you understand how important this stage is, even if it is only the first rung of a big ladder. You must have noticed that thousands of people have come to visit me yesterday and today, but none of them bothered to raise the questions you both did. Everyone sees people dying around them, even close relatives, but it does not strike them to inquire into the secrets behind birth and death. They simply accept it as a part of their life and move on. Though your father died long back, the incident still occupies your mind and you are still pursuing to unveil the secrets behind death, said Swami. Albert remembered Steffi's words that after her father's death, she just accepted it and never quite thought of it again. You had the good fortune to experience your father's love. Vimala was deprived of the love of both father and mother, said Swami. But Swami, why should this happen to Vimala and me? Asked Albert. Yesterday we discussed that in addition to the two levels in the things you want to know, there are also two levels in the seeker of knowledge. Seeking the sky as the blue sky and believing that it is blue. Why should there be tragic circumstances in the lives of both of you? Well, different religions offer different explanations. Those religions that believe in reincarnation give one explanation, while other religions offer other explanations. But all of them are at the relative level, that is, the blue sky. However, it is not the absolute truth. What is the explanation given to our circumstances by those who believe in reincarnations? Asked Albert. Some religions suggest that all that you are enjoying or suffering in this life is the direct result of your own doing, either in this incarnation or a previous incarnation. This is also what Westerners also started referring to as karma. But do not forget that this is not the absolute truth, said Swami. If what I am experiencing in this life is the result of an earlier incarnation, what I have done in the previous incarnation must have been the result of actions in incarnations earlier to that one, is it not? If so, there should have been a point in time when I was pure, asked Albert. That is a good analysis, but that is the analysis of the relative knowledge level, the blue sky. You will not have a satisfactory answer unless you recognize the real sky. That is, unless you recognize the absolute truth, you will not have a true understanding. For that, you must examine the claims of reincarnation more closely. Who is it that is the reincarnating, or who is not reincarnating? Explained Swami. That means I must equip myself to know the absolute truth instead of relying on the belief systems of various religions? Yes, precisely. Now let us consider the questions raised by you and Vimala. You want to know what is death and what happens after death, etc. While Vimala raised deeper questions like what is the relation between the individual, the world, and the so-called God? How does God create this world and why, etc.? One must be eligible to know the answers to such questions, explained Swami. Vimala, who was listening silently till then, asked, how do we become eligible, Swami? Instead of blindly leading your life, raising these questions is itself an indication that you are eligible to seek the truth. But still, you must be sure that you are not going to be satisfied with any other explanations than the absolute truth. For that, you both must travel and meet some people who would enhance your understanding and give you more clarity. Kalyan Dev will provide the details of where to go and whom to meet. After saying this, Swami went into the inner chambers. The next day, when Kalyan Dev returned to the guest house, Albert met with him and briefed him about their discussions with Swami. He told him what Swami had said about Vimala. In the context of what you had discussed with Swami, he suggested that you both should visit some places and meet a few people. He said that he would inform you of the next steps thereafter. Since both of you are going to travel together for a while, Swami said that you should know more details about Vimala, said Kalyan Dev. Yes, after listening to what Swami had to say about Vimala, I was wondering if you could share more details about her, said Albert. I shall share some details which even Vimala is not aware of. Swami suggested that I should share that with you and that he would tell you the reason at a later date. Both Vimala's father and mother were residents of the ashram. Her father, Udayan Chatterjee, was an anesthetist in the ashram hospital, and mother Rukmini was a nurse. Both of them were participating in several service activities in addition to the work at the hospital. They attended a medical camp conducted in Mysore by the local devotees. They became very close then. After the camp, they accompanied the group on a pilgrimage to Badri and Kedarnath. On the way back, they visited Varanasi. When they were in Varanasi, the group went to take a dip in the Ganges, as that day happened to be a solar eclipse day. Along with others, Udayan too was taking a dip in the Ganges when he was dragged away by a strong river current. His body was eventually recovered 20 hours later, a few kilometers down the river. Rukmini left Varanasi immediately. After a few months, one day at about 4 a.m., I received a phone call from Karunya, the then attendant of Swami, and he told me that Swami wanted me to see him immediately. When I went to Swami, he told me that Rukmini was having labor pains in the local railway station waiting room, and I should immediately go and admit her to the hospital. By the time I went there, she was unconscious and I took her to the ashram hospital immediately. She gave birth to Vimala and died during the process. Swami entrusted Vimala to Anasuya, who was working in the ashram bookstall at that time. Anasuya brought up Vimala with love and died when Vimala was 5. Thereafter, Vimala was in my care and the direct supervision of Swami. She completed a master's degree in computer science and while studying also learned languages like French, Spanish, Russian. Of late, she has been showing interest in the inquiry into spiritual matters, and as such, I suggested that she should be associated with you for mutual benefit. Swami has also agreed to the proposal. Since Parameswarananda has given a letter to Swami Krishnananda, you both should visit him. His mutt is near Karnool. After meeting with him, you could visit other places of interest too if you choose. Once you return from the trip, Swami will tell you who to meet after that, said Kalyan Dev. That night, Vimala came to Albert's room to brief him about the next day's journey and also to help him to pack the required things. After Kalyan Dev's briefing about her, Albert treated her with more respect. Albert was surprised to see Vimala in an attire completely different from the usual. She was wearing a more comfortable dress than sari, keeping in view the journey, he guessed. He looked at her appreciatively. Vimala has asked him why he was looking at her that way. He complimented that she looked equally beautiful in this dress as well. She just looked at him with a smile on her face. What a beautiful expression, he said appreciatively. Though she felt happy, feeling a bit embarrassed, she said that they should start immediately or otherwise they would miss the train. They arrived at the station in the car arranged by Kalyan Dev. They boarded the train and settled down after placing the luggage securely under the seats. When the train was about to start, 2 other people joined them in the same cabin. Remembering what Kalyan Dev said about her, Albert asked Vimala Kalyan Dev said that you have learned many languages. Where did you learn them? Along with my regular courses, I studied languages in the Foreign Language Institute of the ashram. Helping Swami during the visits of devotees from those countries also helped me in developing some expertise, explained Vimala. One of the gentlemen who boarded later asked Vimala, "Are you from Prem Sarup Ashram?" She recognized him as the ex-MLA Sukumar of a neighboring constituency. When she said that they were indeed from the ashram, he asked, "Is Prem Sarup still performing miracles?" Vimala replied, saying that they do keep happening from time to time. "Why doesn't he produce big things like pumpkins instead of small things?" asked Sukumar, throwing a sarcastic look at his friend. Controlling the rising anger within her, Vimala retorted, "He produced much bigger things, sir. Recently he produced paved roads that you promised to the electorate of your constituency before elections." On hearing this, Sukumar's friend laughed loudly and said, "That is why people living in glass houses should not throw stones at others." Since these exchanges were in the local language, Albert asked what it was all about. Vimala said that she would tell him later and opened the food packets.